Welcome to Research Talk, and today we will learn another coding strategy, second cycle coding strategy, which is theoretical coding. So theoretical coding as a method is developed and used in grounded theory. As you know, in grounded theory, the focus is on understanding the social processes and develop a theory that explain those social processes. So you come up with the theory, or you come up with the framework that explain those social processes. So that's the focus of a grounded theory. Now, in grounded theory, since the focus is to develop a theory grounded in the data, that's where theoretical coding is used, and it's very useful to refine and develop the theory. So let's start with the coding approach which is followed in grounded theory and how it looks like in the context of using theoretical coding. So as you know, you start with initial coding, any first cycle coding strategy that you could do. And in grounded theory, if you remember, we use process coding because that is more useful to understand the social processes and code them. So let's say you start with the initial coding, and then you do a bit of, let's say, focused coding as well as axial coding. So both these focused coding and axial coding helps you refine your codes and come up with more broader categories. And axial coding helps you to understand relationships between those categories. So now, in this second cycle of coding, you started with the initial coding, and then you move to the second coding where you do focused coding, where you try to merge the codes in broader categories. And then you did axial coding, because axial coding helps you to understand the relationship between different categories. Now, at this stage, you already have your categories figured out, and you also have figured out the relationships between those categories. Now, at this stage, we introduce theoretical coding. So what happens in theoretical coding? So let's understand with another example. And I'm using it, let's say, this is a leaf. So let's say you come up with your initial codes, and after the initial codes are done, you develop your focused code and axial coding. So let's say this is your categories that came up after focused coding, and you did some axial coding to understand the relationship between these various categories. Now, to make this theory even more, refine this theory, we need to further develop it. So let's say if I want to develop this even further, I need more data. And I need data specifically that helps me develop these categories even further. So what I do, because I need more data, and those data should be something like a recruiting participant that helps me develop these categories even further. So what I do, similar to theoretical coding, I start with theoretical sampling. What is theoretical sampling? So let's say I did some interviews, I coded those interviews, and then I analyzed the data, come up with my categories and all that. So based on the initial data, I developed a tentative categories and also the relationship between those categories. So I have a tentative sort of categories and codes and a sort of a tentative theory. Now, based on these various categories, I need to refine them further. So I do further sampling. I recruit more participants. Now, when I'm collecting data with this new participant, I am focusing on what category is needed to be developed even further. So based on my needs, where my theory is, what part of my theory needed to be developed further, I do further recruitment, and this is called theoretical sampling strategy. And theoretical sampling strategy is done to develop, to do theoretical coding, which further leads to develop your grounded theory. So theoretical sampling is a sampling which is done in the later part of the research or data collection, where you have your tentative theory emerging with all its categories, and to develop and refine those categories even further, to refine your theory even further, you recruit participant, and that's theoretical sampling, and then you do the coding of those extended data, the new data that you are collecting as part of theoretical sampling, and that is called theoretical coding. So you go back to the data, the new data you have collected, and then you focus on the those data in terms of understanding what else can contribute to the theory, what else is missing, what is there which can contribute to the theoretical model or the theory that I'm developing with this new data. And you use this new data and to further refine and develop your grounded theory. So that's what theoretical coding is. Theoretical coding is a coding approach which is used towards the later part of the data analysis, where you are doing theoretical sampling, collecting more data, and this data is collected keeping in mind how you want your categories or subcategories or overall theory which is emerging to even develop them further. Like develop in the sense like their subcategories, where maybe you want to explore relationship between category 1, category 2, which is not even clear. So the new data you are collecting, you keep that in mind and explore that phenomenon in that context. So theoretical coding is done in grounded theory. So remember, this is this strategy, theoretical coding, is limited to grounded theory. Number 2, it is done in conjunction with the sampling strategy, which is theoretical sampling. And finally, it is used after doing focused coding and axial coding so that you could further develop, refine your categories and subsequently your grounded theory. I hope this brief example helped you to understand what a theoretical coding is and in what context it is used. Till then, have a good rest of the day, and I'll see you again in another video with another interesting qualitative research topic.